Welcome back to Third Phase of Moon. My name is Blake Cousins, and in this week's episode, we're going to speak with Stephen Bassett. He's in charge and the executive director of the Paradigm Research Group, and is also an exopolitical activist in regards to a 65-year-old cover-up in regards to UFOs and interaction with humans. Thanks for joining us right here at Third Phase of Moon, Stephen.
It is great to be with you.
Now let's get to it right now, Stephen, and tell us what you're up to in regards to disclosure.
It's great to be with you. There's a couple things going on right now, PRG's projects, which are merging together. First, we filed a disclosure petition with the White House in September of 2011 as part of a project that the White House is running called We the People. And we got enough signatures to get a response. That came on November the 4th, and the White House essentially stated in their response there's no evidence whatsoever of any life outside our planet or any life outside engaging us, and even more importantly, that there's no evidence that the government has hidden anything on this subject matter from the American people. Of course, all three of those statements are false. But it's important because they're the first time in history, it's the first time in history when the White House has actually put a position in writing on the extraterrestrial issue, which means we have a target to shoot at. We have something to present to the press and say, here's what the government's position is, here's what the White House position is, here's the evidence. And so for the next 14 months, we have been pounding away at that petition response from the White House. We've submitted 4 more disclosure petitions, which have essentially presented evidence in the petition form contradicting the White House's position. And in a few days, we're going to submit a 6th disclosure petition. You can read all of these petitions at disclosurepetition.info. You can also find the White House response there, or you can find the White House response and the initial petition at the whitehouse.gov website, We the People. And by the way, that initial petition, the others were only up for 30 days because they didn't reach the threshold of signatures for a response. But the first one did, and it's been up on the White House website for all to see worldwide for almost 14 months. This was a significant accomplishment, but we're not done yet. What's going to happen next is PRG is going to launch its most ambitious project ever. It's called the Citizen Hearing on Disclosure of an Extraterrestrial Presence Engaging the Human Race. But the name is Citizen Hearing on Disclosure. It is funded, and it will take place on April 29 to May 3 in Washington, D.C. at the National Press Club. And what Paradigm Research Group is going to do is set up the ballroom of the National Press Club, a very well-known, esteemed institution there in Washington, to look as much as possible like a Senate hearing room, like the one in the Hart Senate building on Capitol Hill. There will be a committee table section for former members of Congress. Not people acting like members of Congress, but former members of the United States Congress. There will be testimony tables, there will be a substantial press sections, and then there will be an audience section that can handle roughly 200 to 250 people. And there will be drapes and flags and all the other bells and whistles. And for 5 days, approximately 40 witnesses will testify for 30 hours and take questions from these former members of Congress who will be acting exactly in the same capacity that they acted when they were serving on committees and in hearings while in Congress. They're going to make it as close as possible. Oaths will be taken, right? Protocols will be followed. And these witnesses will be comprised of the top researchers in the world addressing this phenomena, the political interaction with this phenomena, government history, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As well as a number of individuals of rank and station who at one time served in the military or in political office or with agencies like intelligence agencies or NASA, whatever, who will then testify to events and evidence of which they have direct involvement with. Such witnesses have presented this material in the past. Most of them are going to be known to those that follow this issue, and they've done it in press conferences lasting an hour to 2 hours, almost every one of which was also held at the National Press Club, going back to 2001 with the Disclosure Project's very large press conference. They're in the same room, right? And so What we will have, therefore, is the largest collection of witnesses and researchers ever brought together to address the world and the media on this issue. Not in a press conference format, though, in a hearing context before former members of Congress. First of all, to my knowledge, the event itself is unprecedented. There has never been a citizen hearing like this ever before. There have been some mock hearings that were held at colleges and universities with people standing in and what have you, or maybe by some citizens in a city where they do a little mock hearing simulating what happens at the city council. But no event like this has ever taken place. And of course, the subject matter is rather profound. Now, what we're going to do between now and then, and we've hired the top publicists and independent publicists in Washington, D.C. to drive the public relations and publicity on this, is we're going to build up a whole process of comparison where the world's media, and particularly the political media in Washington and the power center of the East Coast, are going to be able to look at the White House response of November the 4th, 2011, and all of this testimony, which shows the evidence that the White House says doesn't exist at all. And a lot of that evidence alludes to the government's efforts to hide and withhold information from the people, making the White House response completely false. So that's an embarrassment for the White House, but it's also a powerful incentive for the media to say, wait a minute, something's not right here. They've never really had this kind of stark contrast before, and they're about to get it. And they're already going to get this picture long before the event takes place. We expect significant coverage of this event. More importantly, Paradigm Research Group is going to live stream the entire event, all 30 hours and other concomitant events, to the world. We intend to provide translation, simultaneous translation, so that we will be broadcasting not only in English, but the live stream will be broadcast in French, Spanish, and Arabic, which adds another 2 billion people to the potential audience. We are looking into the possibility of also streaming it in Chinese. And that will be a factor of whether or not we can become convinced that we can have the proper conduit so that people would be able to listen to it. There's no sense in broadcasting it if it's going to be blocked throughout all of China. So that gives you a sense of the scope of this event and the potential to bring this issue into play before a huge number of media and billions of people at the same time. This, we hope, will create what is frequently referred to as a media firestorm. In other words, the kindling has been laid for 65 years. The press has been pounded with information and documentaries and press releases from multiple organizations. They have covered the issue more aggressively of recent years. They're certainly producing thousands of articles on this because I archive those articles at the ParadigmResearchGroup.org website. But they haven't crossed the line into challenging the truth embargo itself. We think this event could, in fact, trip that switch. If it does, the truth embargo will probably not last out the summer of 2013. It will be over. The truth embargo is so weak now and so under attack from multiple directions that a substantial increase in the pressure from media, both foreign and U.S. media, the answers are simply not there for the tough questions. The whole thing will simply collapse, and that is the goal of this event. The citizen hearing's goal is nothing less than ending the truth embargo and ET presence in the summer of 2013, resulting in the most profound event in human history, and all 7 billion people of the world learning that they are in fact not alone in the universe, and they already have company. Now, the website is citizenhearing.org. What you will find there now, or at least through approximately the 16th of January, is an announcement page. That by the 16th of January, a full website will be up with lots of bells and whistles, and of course the progress of this hearing as it moves toward April 29 can be followed very closely. People will be able to very soon there sign up for the live stream. We may have sign up for being part of the audience. And of course, we'll be listing the witnesses as they come on board, as well as the members of Congress that will serve in hearing. That's what's going on. That's the plan for next year. We will also submit a 6th disclosure petition very soon, within a few days, again putting more pressure on the White House's response of November 4th, 2011, and it's likely a seventh and possibly an eighth disclosure petition will go on the White House website between now and the event on April 29th.
The arrogance of the White House and the government claiming that there is no life absolutely whatsoever in the universe is absolutely ludicrous to me. And with all the evidence that you received and we're receiving right here at Third Phase of Moon, it would put anybody away in jail in the grand jury of any kind of scheme. The evidence is just overwhelming, right?
Well, let me clarify. I don't know if it's arrogance. First of all, this response was so starkly extreme and so easy to attack that I still wonder to this day if in fact that was intentional. That rather than give us a wishy-washy response that would accomplish nothing, they gave us something that we could go after. It was almost like the White House was saying, look, we're not going to announce the ET presence because of this petition. We can't do that now. But we're going to give you a gift. We're going to give you a position that you can pretty much destroy. And so making it possible for you to come and get disclosure. We're not in a position yet to do it, but if you come and get it, it'll happen. I don't know, and maybe one day I will know. But the fact is that the response they gave is going to be very helpful in driving the press interaction of this. But let me mention this. I don't know how much time we have, but let me mention something important. The best answer I can give as to why we don't have disclosure now already. And there's all kinds of theories out there, and they run from something as simple as, they just don't think we're ready, to all kinds of very exotic conspiracies and dark stuff. I think it's really this, that because of the truth embargo, the military intelligence management committees that handle this particular national security matter have cut the president and the executive branch out of the loop. Eisenhower certainly was aware of it. Truman was aware of it. Kennedy to some degree, perhaps Nixon less. Johnson, not so much, and so forth, until we get to Clinton and Obama. I don't think they're given a briefing on anything. And so essentially they've isolated the issue away from the president. Now this has created a problem. It's painted the government as a whole into a corner. Why? Because the President of the United States cannot walk in front of the American people and say there's ETs here without being able to provide certain key information that will make that point crystal clear, and knowing that they have the support and backing at that time of the military intelligence community. It would be political suicide. However, the military intelligence community, which has the information at some level or another, works for the White House, works for the president. He's the commander-in-chief. The military and the CIA and all of that, they're not a fourth branch of government. They work for the White House. And so the idea that some general or bird colonel is going to go in front of a microphone and say, look, I think it's time for the Department of Defense to tell you the extraterrestrials are here, would be high treason. It would be the end of that career and would create major constitutional questions about how our government's being run. And so they can't do it either. They have boxed themselves out. But you see, there is a simple solution. And this has been the case since the Cold War ended. Somebody representing the White House, if I had to pick somebody, it would be John Podesta, former advisor to Bill Clinton, former chief of staff to Bill Clinton, and of course the CEO and founder of the Center for American Progress, needs to hold a private meeting with a representative of the Department of Defense, not necessarily the CIA or intelligence, but the Department of Defense. And in that meeting, they would hammer out, what does the president need from the military intelligence community to support a disclosure act? What does the military intelligence community expect from the president in terms of the disclosure event itself, and of course how things are going to go in the post-disclosure world? And having reached that understanding, the president can go forward and do what is inevitably going to happen, and that is announce the extraterrestrial to the American people. That's why it hasn't happened yet, because that meeting hasn't taken place. They haven't had that understanding, which will have to be done secretly. There's no way they're going to hold this meeting at the Holiday Inn and announce it in advance. And then once that meeting takes place and agreement is reached, disclosure will follow very, very quickly, because you can't have that kind of thing floating around in the background because it will leak. And so consider all of the projects of Paradigm Research Group and the Exopolitics World Network and World Disclosure Day and the disclosure petition process and the citizen hearing and the other projects that have been conducted by other organizations around the world for the last 20 years as part of this international truth movement, having one goal, and that is to persuade, convince, maybe pressure the military intelligence communities of the United States and possibly other nations to hold that private meeting with a representative of their head of state and achieve that understanding, and finally allow the head of state of that country to go before their people and finally announce the ET presence. And lastly, and I, as an American citizen, I feel it's not inappropriate for me to add this, and I add it all the time. The United States government, both the military, the intelligence community, and the White House need to understand that there is a race developing, a kind of disclosure race between the United States and another dozen or so countries. Any one of those countries could announce the extraterrestrial presence tomorrow, and the United States will be, how would you say, following them, right? You know, bringing up the rear and having to, quote, acknowledge after the fact. That is going to have significant impact on our geopolitical standing worldwide. It's going to affect our ability to deal with the post-disclosure questions that will come by the thousands to all of the heads of our agencies and military, as well as, of course, the presidential office. And being second or third or fourth is not going to help. The nation that makes this first announcement is going to achieve a long-lasting historical legacy that's almost incalculable in its value. And so the U.S. has got to understand the world is simply not going to wait indefinitely for us to act. Unless the U.S. government is completely controlling the other 200 nations of the world, which I don't think is the case, one of those nations is going to act first. And so time is running out. I would be perfectly happy if the United States government disclosed the extraterrestrial presence before the citizen hearing in April of this year. We would quickly reconfigure the hearing to reflect a post-disclosure circumstance, making it just as valuable, in my opinion, and very, very interesting, and probably watched even more, and by even more people around the world. No problem. I'd be happy to accommodate that problem, or accommodate that circumstance. So feel free, United States government, to announce the ET presence anytime you want. But if you haven't, I can assure you the impact of the disclosure hearing, and by the way, this entire hearing is being fully documented by a film crew from a production company in Los Angeles, and there will be a theatrical documentary built around this hearing that will then come out, hopefully in theatrical distribution sometime in the late fall of 2013 of this year. So it's not just a documentary, there's going to be a citizen disclosure hearing. I'm sorry, not just the event, there's also going to be a citizen disclosure hearing documentary, which will just bring it all home one more time. So that's where things are at right now. That's why I feel probably more optimistic than ever that this particular year may be the disclosure year. I think we've had opportunities in the past, and I've said so, but I've never predicted the day and time, because no one can do that. But I have to say, of all the 16 years since PRG got underway in 1996, this year looks the most promising.
Stephen, I really want to thank you for joining us here at Third Phase of Moon and sharing your insight with all our viewers from around the world. Can you tell them on how to get involved with this petition to the White House and be a part of history?
Yes, again, citizenhearing.org, disclosurepetition.info, paradigmresearchgroup.org. And let's do another interview, say in about 2 months, when things are going to be pretty right, most everything in place. And I can update your viewers on what to expect in April.
Thanks again, Steve. It's been amazing.
Mahalo.
Thanks again, Stephen. I also want to thank Dr. John Ellis for setting this interview up with Stephen Bassett. It's been a pleasure, and if you want to make a difference and change the world, get on this petition and send it to the White House so we can get disclosure. My name's Blake Cousins, and we'll see you again next time.